Meredith Lisa Jones is an actor, director, and voice actor who has performed and directed at several community theaters across eastern and central Massachusetts. As a voice actor, she's lent her vocal talents to audio dramas, radio plays, animated shorts and series, and video games across the US and the UK, and is currently directing and producing an original audio drama that she wrote for young adults, addressing the epidemic of depression in young people. When not on stage or in the booth, you can find her playing Dungeons and Dragons to hone her improvisation skills and hanging out with her many animals, including dogs, cats, ducks, and goats, no bats, at her home in Bolton, Massachusetts, different from Boston. She's thrilled to be spooking you all tonight. Now, Meredith will share with us a Charleston ghost story, the ghost of Lavinia Fisher. Meredith?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying with us. Charleston, South Carolina exudes an eerie calmness on many nights. The cobblestone streets of this historical city have seen their fair share of drama and mystery. The tragic stories of the past and notable, intriguing characters haunt the spaces between the stately architecture. One of the most compelling of these stories is Lavinia Fisher. She set a violent precedent, making a legend of herself as the country's first female serial killer. The spirits of Lavinia and her partner in crime, her husband John, are said to haunt the streets of Charleston, where they were hanged 2 centuries ago. Lavinia and John ran an inn just outside of Charleston, known as the 6 Mile House. It was a temporary home to travelers visiting the area on their way to trade goods. They were often returning from doing business and carrying loads of cash. Many of the guests didn't realize upon their arrival that it would be their last stop. Legend has it that Lavinia was quite the seductress. She would lure male visitors to stay at the inn with her stunning beauty and flirtatious appeal. Chatting them up in her comforting way made them trust their hostess and let their guard down. Lavinia served them comfort food and tea laced with oleander, infused with a toxic shrub. The tea induced warm sleepiness in their guests. Lavinia would then play the ever-gracious host, refilling their mugs and turning on the charm. The men would eventually fall into a deep slumber. That's where John came in. Seduced by the opportunity for an easy jackpot, he would rob the patrons in their sleep. Some likely overdosed on the potent tea, though those that didn't would be stabbed to death by their host. To cover his tracks, John would hide their dismembered bodies in the cellar of the inn. Though the Fisher couple was well liked in town, suspicion started swirling as more and more men continued to disappear. Locals gathered that the common factor was the victim's last known whereabouts at 6 Mile House. The sheriff's office raided the 6 Mile House and thoroughly searched for any evidence of the missing men. The grounds were torn apart, and possessions of the disappeared visitors were uncovered. Evidence of Lavinia's sleeping potion was even discovered, making the pair's MO clear and obvious. Over time, reports have faded, and the recounts of the findings have become inconsistent. Some say that the basement was littered with the remains of hundreds of travelers. Others say that no bodies were found at all. One thing that is consistently true, however, is that it's believed that those missing guests never made it out of the inn after the fateful night of their stay. On the morning of February 18th, 1820, John and Lavinia Fisher were led on their final walk to the gallows behind the county jail. Lavinia refused to go quietly to her death, desperate for a last-minute pardon. She made quite a show, and she had to be forcefully carried to the gallows, insisting on wearing her wedding gown. She caused a loud, profanity-filled, dramatic scene. In one final act of defiance, Lavinia leaped from the platform by her own will, hanging lifeless over the crowd of onlookers. But not before she shouted her last bold words. If you have a message you want to send to hell, give it to me. I'll carry it. The stunned crowd was left with these last words. The wicked smile on Lavinia's face as her soul left the gallows would be engraved in their minds. Witnesses would recount the tale, ending with her empty, dead stare for years to come. The couple's bodies were likely laid to rest at the nearby Potter's Field Cemetery. This was not unusual for convicted criminals with no family to lay claim to their remains. It should come as no surprise, with such a terrible story as this, that the ghost of Lavinia is said to still roam the county jail. Several who have visited the historic building often claim to have seen the woman in her wedding dress, describing it as bright red and white. Perhaps it is the dead bride herself, Lavinia Fisher, still stalking innocent men from beyond the veil of death.
I'm not going to get to sleep tonight. Are any of you? Thank you so much for that wonderfully performed and terrifying story.